moderated by Dr. Taylor, and it is on how artificial intelligence can accelerate the realization of sustainable development goals in Africa. Dr. Taylor, please. Is he around?
I'm here, Prof. How are you?
Fine, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you so much for the opportunity to moderate this session, and I'm really sorry. My sincere apologies that I wasn't able to fully join the previous session because I had another meeting going on at the same time. But I'm really happy and really passionate to be here and have caught the last part of the discussion around some of the issues raised. And I think this is a very timely dialogue. And I want to, as the Director for Partnerships at ACTS, I want to really in advance thank the partners who are involved in this, the experts who take their time to have this particular discussion, for really committing to this particular dialogue series of our founding father, Professor Kalicious Juma. Having said that, the next session is focusing on a very interesting topic, which is artificial intelligence for sustainable development. And this is very critical because in most debate I've been attending, the biggest questions that we face, like technology for what, innovation for what, and all these questions, and especially in a world that, in the context of Africa, where issues and challenges are becoming more complex. We've just had the experience with COVID. We still have the complexities with climate change. We have a number of complex issues that are coming on board. So the question around how emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence can be able to solve these particular problems and can be able to address SDGs is a fundamental one, in the sense that as we are, most of us here are researchers or experts in different fields, as we are part of that knowledge producing community, our knowledge production should not just be about developing new ideas or new papers and publications and technological advancement, but we must sit back and reflect on how best can some of the emerging technologies from our work really resolving the problems and the issues that we are facing as a continent. So this is very important. And to help us begin to unpack this particular question, and just to mention, this is a continuous dialogue. It's not a one-off dialogue. We hope that, whatever comes out of this, the key issues highlights can really inform the next level. So I have a panel of distinguished experts who are going to help us begin to unpack this particular question. I have about 4 panelists from different sectors and different expert communities. And my first panelist is Professor Mamadou Camara, who is from the Sheikh Anta Diop University of Dakar. And because Prof is well known and well advanced on many things, and the CV and the bio speaks for itself, so I won't read all this also in the interest of time, but I'm just going to say Prof is an associate professor at the École Polytechnique. Of course, this is the Sheikh Anta Diop University of Dakar. His expertise is on the various subjects, including data mining, database systems, project control, knowledge-based systems, and expert systems, among others. So Prof has had a lot of experience around building, systems, which again are really linked to the artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, but also the wider ecosystems of technologies, because that is what a system is all about. So Prof. Mamadou Camara is actually going to address the question around how the artificial intelligence is actually applied in the area of health and marine diversity. And because this is a key part of the SDG. So, Prof, it should be good to listen to your thoughts around this, but most importantly, if you have some practical examples, please do highlight, because as the African Center for Technology Studies, we are very passionate about evidence, really what works, and how can we use that, which, some of the experiences, best practices to really pronounce the content's position in some of these issues. So, Prof, I welcome you, and I think you have 10 minutes. 10 minutes, yes.
Good morning, everyone. So thank you, Dr. Atela, for the introduction. So I will begin to this. It's not in the good mode. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so thank you to all the assistants, and thanks to all the colleagues, and especially Professor Ogada and his team. So as Dr. Atela said, so I'm working at the Cheikh Anta Diop University of Dakar. So I will present today some experience, the work we already have done, and the work we are, the project, the ongoing project. So the plan will be like this. So research conducted in artificial intelligence. And I will especially talk after that about three ongoing projects, one in health and another one in marine biodiversity, and the AI for the scholarship. So for the work we already have done, so here we have work on preparation of data. So it's an important topic. So for example, here the managing of data quality in process mining, database anonymization, and the other one is machine learning techniques for universal stack analysis. So stack analysis means that, for example, if some data is inserted in an image, so how to classify and see if there is an information inside the image or not. So these three first elements are PhD thesis that has already defended now. So the three first. We have two last theses that are ongoing thesis about process mining. So for the application in health, we have collaboration with the key university, the Queen's University. Here, for example, we have track ultrasound snapshot. So it's a tracking system. Here you have phantom, the ultrasound probe, and a needle. Okay, so this is a system that will be sent at UCAT. So that is not sent yet, but that will be sent at UCAT. So it's the objective is to train the medical personnel on intervention. intervention. So it's, for example, here. So the application is in Africa, for example. These phantoms are really expensive. Okay, so there is a solution we try to work on is, for example, the reconstruction of phantom. So phantom here, for example, you print some mold in 3D, and you reconstruct. Like here is the renal phantom. So you use elements like some gelatin or something like that. Okay. So when you build your phantom, you will put it in a box, and you will put the chemical elements inside. So the final aspect will be like this. For example, the medical personnel can be trained with that. So it's less expensive. So for example, for countries like Africa, it's a good opportunity to to train some person. Here, for example, I can show you the mold that we have printed. So all the department, a lot of departments of the École Supérieure Polytechnique are implicated in this project. For example, this mold is printed by the mechanical department. The chemical element, we have a student in a chemical department who is working on that. And for the computer science department, after that, we will do the analysis of data. Okay, because when you train some person, you can analyze to see if the person have the ability to do the operation in the correct way. Okay. So there is also another application here. We call it Monai label. So it's for segmentation. So segmentation means that have like two functions. For example, segments means that you can show in a 3D image an organ or a tumor, a cancer tumor. So the software we are using is the key slicer, 3D slicer. It's an open source software for medical data. So we have a lot of collaboration with the northern countries about this software that is 3D slice. For Monai level, for example, you have two steps. In the first step, because collecting data is very important, because most of our students, sometimes they go to online database, they collect some data, and they begin to do some learning. So most of the time, they are not working with their own data. So they just download data and try to work with that. So here, we want to work in the data preparation phase. Here, you have first phase that the system will help you based on artificial intelligence system to segment some data. So it's here an interactive use. So the user will do some clicks, positive and negative clicks, and will be guided by these two functionalities of the software. So this phase is to have some data labeled, medical image labeled. And if you have enough image labeled, you begin now to train your own convolutional neural network to do automatic segmentation. It means that now the user will not interact. So the system will be able to do the segmentation automatically. Here we have an example. Here you have a 3D slicer work like this is a 3D image that can be seen as an addition of 3D images. And for each, if you take the 2D image, so you have here the interaction with the user and the neural network will be able to do the segmentation here that we have here. Okay, so another element, another project. Here is a project funded by Sean Zuckerberg, and we are working with the Harvard University. So we are translating the software in French, from English to French. So this means that what is the relation with artificial intelligence? So artificial intelligence means data. So when the software will be in French, so the physicians will be more able to work with that. And we expect to have more data to do after our learning. Okay, so this is for the health, the application in health. We have also an ongoing project in marine biodiversity. So it's a consortium of countries or university in Africa, Morocco, Senegal, Cameroon, and the university in France also. Is funded by the INR, so the National Agence of Research. Okay, for this year, we have some key packages, some work key packages, is to see the diversity in terms of key species on the ecosystem. And here you have the habitat of the elements. So here the specific work package. So UCAT is responsible of two work packages. The first one, we try to improve the accuracy of marine biodiversity using a DNA, environmental DNA. So it means that, so you collect like some water and you will extract some DNA and try based on that to predict what are the fishes and the species that were present and what are the quantities. The other one is identification of fish and the evaluation also of the abundance. Okay, so for this, we use computer vision annotation server that is located at Caledonia, Nouvelle-Caledonia. For computer resources, we will have access to a server based in France. Okay, so last but not least, the other program on which we are working is the AI4D scholarship program. As you know, it's a partnership with AI4D, Africa and ACTS, funded by IDRC and SIDA. So in this program, I am doing the coordination of French-speaking countries. Especially right now, I'm giving a training program for the PhD students that are funded in the frame of artificial intelligence program. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I will be happy to answer if some questions are asked. Thank you very much, Dr. Atela.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Very, very excellent work there. And I think what would be interesting is to look at how that particular the idea, the research outcomes and outputs can be scaled up once the findings are validated. And having said that, I want us to move to the next sector, which is on agriculture and environmental protection in Africa, and how the artificial intelligence is also supporting this. And to take us through that, we have Professor Romain Glele, Kakai. So Prof, as I introduce you, you could already, if you have a PowerPoint to share, you could already put it up. But Prof is the head of, is a professor of biomathematics and the head of the laboratory, I think this is mathematics laboratories, and coordinator of the master and PhD programs in biostatistics at the University of Abomey, Kelavi, and this is in the Republic of Benin. Prof has a lot of experience around this area. I've done quite some work, but maybe something to add is that he's currently the chair of the Africa-German Network of Excellence in Science, Ernest, affiliated to the German Ministry of Education and Research. And yeah, so this is very useful. And of course, thinking about the young researchers, the early career researchers in this particular engagements, Prof would be a good person also to link up to, especially in the context of those particular networks, which are very critical in terms of capability building. So Prof, would you just take 10 minutes? The first speaker, I've given some more minutes, but hopefully you can finish your presentation in less than 10 minutes. Otherwise, we'll run out of time. You're welcome, Prof. Romain.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to give a presentation on artificial intelligence opportunities in agriculture and environmental protection, case of Africa. So the major points, the main point of the presentation is first the state of agriculture in Africa, environmental issues in Africa, and potential of AI to resolve some of the problem in agriculture and environment. And I will finish by some outgoing research at the Laboratory of Biomathematics and Forest Estimation in the field of artificial intelligence. So what is the state of agriculture in Africa? Agriculture is the major activities in Africa. And but agriculture production from Africa is still low compared to the other parts of the world. So contribute only to 10% of the global world production. In sub-Saharan Africa, for example, 60% of the population are smallholder farmers, and agriculture contributes about 23% in terms of GDP. More than 2 100 million Africans are still undernourished, despite the fact that agriculture is the main activities of African countries. And this agriculture is characterized by very low technicity and also sensitive to market prices and many bottlenecks upstream and downstream in the chain. So many problems linked to agriculture in Africa. About the environmental issues, there is deforestation that is, let's say, increasing due to climate change in Africa, and also extreme vulnerability of agriculture to climate change, of farmers to climate change. Soil erosion, also the desertification, and also wetland degradation. Also issues linked to air and water pollution, and infestation, insect infestation. All these negatively impacts not only agriculture in Africa, but also impacts living conditions, let's say, of Africa. So what AI can do to, let's say, help to solve all these problems in agriculture and environment? We know that AI is becoming a valuable tool in addressing some of agriculture challenges. So with AI, it's possible, for example, that farmers can, let's say, analyze data such as weather, temperature, water use, soil condition, and also all this data can be used to inform the decision better than what is currently doing, and also conduct some activities with few persons. So with artificial intelligence, for example, it's possible, considering plant images, to use different, let's say, AI and machine learning process in order to very quickly identify disease and, let's say, start automatic treatment of the disease in the fields. AI can also be used to detect stress in plants in the fields, and also then will help to know exactly deficiency of different, let's say, nutrients in order to help to increase agriculture crop yields. And there are different initiatives, ongoing initiatives on the continent. For example, food organization, IBM, Microsoft, are looking at concrete ways to use artificial intelligence to help African farmers. And the goal is to help to eliminate or mitigate poverty and improve food security. Microsoft and e-Results developed the sowing app to help farmers to achieve optimal harvests. There is also different application. For example, Okwafo AI app that use AI to help small farmers owner in rural Africa, reduce crop losses, and improve yields by 50%. Another initiative is Plant Village that is developed in African countries on the basis of an existing application and artificial intelligence in order to contain and prevent locust invasion in the fields. AI can also be used to find adequate response to different environmental challenges like global warming, the low diversity, generalized pollution. And it's also useful to reduce the amount of pesticide and know exactly how, when to provide pesticide and the quantity. And some initiative in Senegal and Mali, AI is used to determine individual tree types using satellite image. And in Nigeria, also is used to bring renewable energy. Now, some outgoing research at the laboratory of biomathematics at the University of Abu Bakr, my laboratory. I'm supervising right now 3 PhD students. The first, working on optimization of machine learning technique in predicting maize cultures yields under several control weather and fertilizer patterns, and using data from greenhouse climatic and fertilizer parameter simulation. The second PhD student use deep learning model with application on stress detection on tomato. And the last is using machine learning to predict the abundance of tick, to predict zone of abundance of tick in grass permanent pastures to help farmers, to help breeders to know exactly where cattle and sheep must pass. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Yeah, I was just wondering, as you're making the presentation, how we can make this possibility in terms of the artificial intelligence as an adaptation tool, especially with regards to climate change, because a lot of the agronomical kind of parameters that are able to defined I don't know, I don't have an answer, but just thinking, how can we start making that nexus much more reality? Our third presenter is Professor Romain, Professor Diop, who is actually going to dig deep a bit into the health elements and is going to look at the AI in the medical field, challenges and opportunities in developing countries. So Professor Diop is an active member of the Laboratory of Medical Imaging and Bioinformatics at the University of Sheikh Anta Diop of Dakar. And of course, he has other qualifications which are very important, but most importantly, maybe just to say that at the national level, Prof participates in the development of an international conference on computer research and its applications through the international curriculum and computer science research activities. So those are quite great platforms that are important in terms of also showcasing some of these best practices in AI and linking to SDGs. So Prof, if you are on, I invite you to take the floor and take us through AI in the medical field, challenges and opportunities in developing countries. Is Prof in here? Okay, I can see him. Indeed. Hello. Yeah, I think maybe Prof has taken us more break or is trying to sort out something, but I wonder whether Dr. Ernest Mwebaze is here, so that we move to Ernest. Okay, as we wait for Prof to set up. So Ernest, I want to give you the floor to talk to us about context-aware artificial intelligence for social goal. And just to introduce you briefly, Ernest has had a dual career in academia and industry, possesses over 10 years of teaching experience in computer science and machine learning. While at Makerere University, he's co-founded the Makerere University Artificial Intelligence Research Lab, leading to the prominence in the field in practical implementation and deployment of AI solutions. So this is a huge thing. Ernest, I want to congratulate you for that. That laboratory, AI laboratory at Makerere, very excellent. So we want to learn more about that. So I want to give you the floor to take us through the AI for social good. Ernest.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here and present to this this robust assembly. So thank you very much. I'm called Ernest Mwebaze from Sunbird AI. So I just thought I would give a quick introduction about Sunbird AI. So we're a not-for-profit organization based in Uganda, but with dreams of spreading throughout Africa. And our goal, our mission is really leadership in AI. And we are keen on social good and the African context, because we think this is what will have the biggest social impact, this context. And this is what I want to talk about. And what does this mean in practical terms? It means we want to use AI to generate evidence for policy. So we believe sustainability has a clear link to policy. And also to contribute to AI policy. What is our AI policy here in Africa? Want it to be contextualized, unique, and address our local problems, as many of the speakers have sort of talked about, and the need for local training and local skilling in AI policy. All right, so the broader context, I guess, which aligns with this workshop is the SDGs. So I want to talk about some work we are doing that covers these 3 SDGs. One on good health and well-being. I know someone has already talked about it. I'll briefly talk about what we've been doing there. And then reduced inequalities, which is a complex SDG, but we want to also address that in some ways. And then sustainable cities, because this is the future of Africa. We are rapidly developing. So why context-aware AI? So I think we strongly believe context is very important, and many people have talked about context. Things should be built for our local context. Otherwise, then we don't get all the benefits of these new technologies. And sometimes we import harms because our context is not embedded in these technologies. And so we see opportunity for sustainable development in planning, in decision-making, and strengthening this loop between citizen and government. But I think a key thing is that I think the reason why I want to use AI is to have this sort of leapfrog traditional constraints of infrastructure and impact our societies. So I'll briefly talk about some of the projects we are doing in this line. So one is African language technology. And we have a strong belief that, people have trouble and there's a lot of people being left out of development of the current resources, because accessing these resources or making their voices heard is hard because they do not speak the major languages that communicate in English, especially, or French. The many local languages that we have, Africa has the largest diversity of languages. So building some technology that harnesses these languages or does translation or speech translation is important. And so we've spent some time trying to build some base technology by collecting data and building, for example, translation systems in local languages here in Uganda. And maybe just elaborate on this point. I did the previous talk was on agriculture. So this is some work we did in the Makerere AI lab. So can we take an app and can we use that to score disease or calculate symptoms or pests in the field? And one of the blockers we get is the people we're trying to deploy this app to, the people we're trying to give this solution to, there's a language barrier. And so this is a clear example of where language technology could help. Or someone has talked, we've been talking about gender inclusion. And we know that, for example, there's a lot of ladies who are left out of technology, things like in the fintech industry, where a lot of people are unbanked. There's a need for language resources to bridge some of these gaps. And so we've done a base project in Uganda. We've collected language data from 5 large regions in Uganda and built a translation system that can do translation from multiple languages to English and back and forth between the languages. The second sort of sub-project under language technology is social media analytics. And this we worked with the Ministry of Health here in Uganda and the Kampala City Authority. And the idea was to understand perceptions of the public, COVID messaging. So COVID was quite unique because the messaging were things which you couldn't easily translate to local languages, quarantine, masks, all these things. And so we were trying to understand how people analyze or understand the messaging. And so we built these AI systems to take a COVID tweet and understand, is this a COVID tweet, is it not, and what are the topics that are coming from there, and also to infer perceptions of the public from this kind of thing. So one of the outputs of this, one of the key things we do is make sure that the things we produce are open sourced. One of the major outputs from this language project is a language data set that can be easily extended with other local languages from other countries in Africa. The last project I want to talk about is on environmental noise sensing. So we are rapidly urbanizing in Africa, particularly. Our cities are slightly unique from the world. We are rapidly urbanizing, get a lot of people left behind. And then we get some significant public health hazards because we are sort of pulled in parts. And one of the key ones is noise, environmental noise. And this has been highlighted by World Health Organization as a pandemic or epidemic that's slowly grown. There's more noise that we're generating. And so we've been working to create a system that can do measurement of noise automatically. And so Kampala, for example, has multiple noise sources, motor vehicles, sirens, street preachers, motor taxis. There's many sources of noise. And so what we're doing is developing sensors, so locally made sensors that adhere to our local context. They are solar powered. And these measure noises autonomously. So we put them around the city and measure noises. And what this helps is that you can start building acoustic maps of the city. Is the school in the right place? Do you have hospitals in the right place? What's the noise map around these places? Or people looking for homes, what is the noise situation in these places? Or in industries and factories, is the noise level, is it within the agreeable standards for the workers who are working there? And so we've had deployments so far in Entebbe, with the mayor here. And so we're trying to map noise in that region. And the last thing, probably, sorry, I'm a bit over time, but the last thing is something which also wanted to pitch to the community here. So we have something called AI clinics. And because we've had some bit of experience in deploying practical AI solutions, especially in our context here, we're offering these AI clinics as a neutral source of advice to African institutions on practical possibilities and benefits and risks of AI technology. Particularly, we come in when an organization wants to deploy AI. So if they go down the wrong path, it's very hard to get them back because they've collected data, they've employed people to build models. And we think there is a need for a source of a second opinion. If organizations want a second opinion, governments, then we are offering this. And the way it works is people subscribe to the AI clinic, get a 30-minute spot. This is unpaid. And then we just discuss the options with the organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernest. Very important. And I would think contextualizing AI is not just impeded by language barriers, but I think more broadly, the information barriers. So the scaling out and really ensuring that AI ideas and technologies reach different stakeholders and people who are able to use it is a key part of that question. But let me bring back Prof. Heidi, who had dropped out briefly. So, Prof, could you proceed with your presentation? We are running short of time, so maybe make it very brief. I already introduced you, so everyone here knows you, but go ahead. If you are there.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm sorry. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
My,
good afternoon from Nairobi.
It's okay. Good morning. I'm sorry. I had technical problems. Thank you to give me the opportunity to make a presentation about artificial intelligence in Africa. I'm from Cheikh Anta University. Today, I want to talk on challenge and opportunities of machine learning and deep learning algorithms in our continent. You all know today that African countries people are facing several problems in key development sectors. First, I will say in field of health that I think is one of the important. We have many problems problems to get appointments, problem to evacuate patients, problem for diagnosis, and in our hospital we have also problems of human resource and material resource. For example, in Senegal, recently we have a woman who died in hospital because of lack of assistance in time. We have also babies who died in hospital in fire. I can also give another example. We have a hospital of Dakar that loses its computer system due to power cuts. Second, we can say about agriculture. We have many problems as archaic means dependent on climatic. Consequently, today we have a problem in Africa of food self-sufficiency. Thirdly, in education, we have also many problems as a problem of means, problem of accessibility, and so on. In many parts of our continent, we have problem of security. This is why we think that deep learning and machine learning can help our continent to improve practice. But this is to say we must, in using of artificial intelligence, we must ensure the protection of privacy, because we handle sensitive data. We must protect our laws and the regulation. We must respect our laws and regulation. We also, in these uses, you must ensure the protection of our culture, because if we want the addition of all the actors, we must protect our costume. Here, for in Africa, must also protect vulnerable groups as women and children. Even if today force is to constate that they meet certain problems like of the level data, the power of calculation, the problem of storage. Despite this obstacle, in Senegal, for example, we are working on a certain number of projects, among which we can mention the using of a 3D slicer. I think that my colleague Prof. Camara talked about it. We also work with Abbas Now Hospital to see how we can use deep learning to detect early diabetic retinopathy. We also work with Dantec Hospital to see how we can use deep learning for prediction of chronic disease. In bioinformatics, we work on intestinal microbiome for prediction of disease. Also, in our university, we work with many students to see how we can propose a low-cost prototype materials and phantom. Dear colleague, dear assistants, here are the points I wanted to share with you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Prof, for making it brief. The idea around, using some elements of the AI to do prediction of diseases and their manifestation is an interesting one. Of course, given that we just came out of COVID, where most African countries were struggling with how to not just diagnose, but also to undertake surveillance, and also to have some futuristic perspective on the behavior of this particular disease. And so in the context of countries trying to recover and making plans that can make them more prepared, what role should AI play in terms of informing these particular processes, recovery plans, pandemic response strategies, and stuff like that? So those are things we need to be thinking about soon as we promote this work. I think we have come to the end of the panel presentations, and very good points have emerged, some of which we have been able to stress up. And also, in the interest of time, I would like to see if there are any questions in the chat area. So the ACTS team, are you able to should inform me of any questions in, from in the chat. From where I see, I'm not able to see any that is focused on this, but Fiona, anyone, is there anything else you can see that we need to raise before we open the floor? Okay. All right, I'm assuming maybe there are no question on the chat. I want to give a few minutes just to open the floor to the participants who might have questions or points of clarifications that they would want the panelists to really address. A number of interesting issues that have emerged. And as we close this, it would be good really to get the feeling of the participants in this particular process. So if you have a question, please, I don't know how to identify this. Because I can't see,
Doc will assist you. I think
yeah,
Fiona is on standby and Samuel Wenjau.
Okay.
Please just raise the Doc's attention to any questions, any hands that are raised.
Yeah.
Maybe I can just open the floor, Doc, if you'll
Go
allow
ahead.
me.
That's right.
I've listened to what Professor Camara, Professor Glele Kakai, even Diop, Professor Diop, and Dr. Mwebaze. And one thing that keeps on, playing in my mind over and over is we are coming up, yes, with very lovely models that are contextual. We are finally solving our own problems in Africa. The challenge is the uptake. How much is these models that are already developed, to what extent are the problem communities or the user communities adapting them? Because I know that that particular part is extremely tough. I've seen IBM complain all over in so many fora that technologies keep on piling up, but the user communities don't seem to be interested. That then will be our next challenge. And I think all the presenters, that is something we need to really think about deeply.
Thank you, Winston. Adoption. Does any of the panelists want to respond to that? Of course, starting from the first speaker.
Okay,
Yeah.
so thank you very much, Dr. Ojenge, for your question. Donc, for the adoption of the technologies, I can give the example of the segmentation, because, for example, the software we use, the physicians, when they have to do an chirurgical operation, they can take the image of the patient's image, they segment it. So if there is a tumor, for example, they can show to the patient what part of the organ will be impacted. Okay, so this is the work as physicians between the doctor and the patient. So how the computer scientists will help? For example, for this segmentation in the same software, you can you have some options to manually segment, but that takes too much time. To do just one segmentation, you will take like 2 hours, something like that. But with the artificial intelligence technique, that will help to reduce the time of segmentation. So we come as a support to the, for example, here in the Faculty of Medicine, we work with them and to improve. So they begin to work, they use the elements, but we will, our work is to propose more fast solutions to gain some time. The other element also, what is this? For example, the equivalent material to doing these tasks are expensive. For example, the material I show here, the Queen's University will send it, and there is low cost material adapted to Africa, for example. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ernest, you have anything to add?
Yes, I do.
Romain coming. Yeah.
Okay. So I think Dr. Ojenje is right about the adoption of AI technologies in Africa, especially in the field of agriculture. You know, agriculture is, let's say, linked to small holder farmers and with, of course, low technicity. So let's say convince them to use AI technology is quite challenging. So this is a work that will be done together with African government. For example, in Benin, what I know is that the government, our government is, let's say, is working to release or to identify all different structure working in the field of artificial intelligence, and see how all this can be put together for a real application in the field of agriculture. So with many, let's say, with a large group of farmers association, this can be possible. And that's what is now doing in Benin. But I recognize that is quite challenging if agriculture is still doing by agriculture activities is still doing by smallholder farmers. So that's what I can add.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Glele. Do you have anything to add? Ernest and ID?
Thank you, Dr. Ojanga, for your question.
And Ernest, Ernest, let me just add this. Is the question about adoption. It's a big elephant in the room. Yeah, so if you can be very clear around that, because you talked about context and stuff like that. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, let me give my answer. 3 parts. One is I've done quite a bit of work in trying to implement agricultural AI tools in the field. So one of them is context. The context we have as scientists working in the lab, even here in Nairobi or in Kampala, is very different from the context which is down on the ground. So we found that was a big problem. Even the motivations are different. You want to publish, but the people on ground want a usable app. That's one of the things. The second was, how do you actually adopt? How is it adopted? So we worked with the government body in agriculture, and in the actual body, there were 2 separate groups. So there's a group of people who go for surveys, and this is what you're trying to automate. And these people do not want the automation because they want to get transport refund, they want to get some fuel, they want to travel and get some per diem. So we needed to work with the people up who see the strategic use of these apps. So adoption also becomes a self-defeating thing if you work with the wrong people. And then thirdly, maybe which is most important, is impact. How do you measure impact? So when we deploy these apps, what we found, for example, with an automated phone app that diagnoses disease, we saw usage go up initially, and then usage certainly got down. And when we went on the ground, we found that the people who are using the app had actually learned to do the same task with their eyes. And so they were not using the AI, but the impact of this was that people now could identify the diseases. And then even some left cassava, which is a common trend, that smallholder farmers, once they get improvements in their outcomes, they leave growing the crop. And so whenever you measure smallholder farmers, you keep getting a recurrent negative because the people who are affected positively left that occupation. And so we had different ways of measuring impact. So I think there are many nuances to this kind of thing of adoption, but I just want to throw this through there. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernest. And I give it to ID. Diop, do you want to add your voice?
I want to add that with deep learning and machine learning algorithm, we can today in Africa have many platforms for sharing information. For sharing information about many diseases. We can also use the cell phones to allow people to in a certain area to have many information also about medical diagnosis, about prevention on many diseases. We can also, for our government, for example, use this platform to have information in order to predict, for example, the pandemic. The pandemic in Africa, we haven't a system to help government, to help scientists to predict. And artificial intelligence can be an opportunity for us to have all these system in our continent.
Thank you so much, Eddie. I want to close this session, and if there are other questions, please write them down, and they'll be collected and shared in the panelists. Because of time, and people need to go for a short break before the next session, unless there is any burning question or point that anyone wants to raise. I want to take this opportunity to say that the discussions here have been, Prof, I see, do you want to say something? I see like you are unmuting.
No. I think it is okay. We take a break and move to the next session. Yeah.
Excellent. So yeah, I was just going to sum it up by saying, all these are good things. All the experiments, all the development, AI development efforts are really excellent. And the question that Dr. Jenge has asked, I think, should be our greatest bother. And number two, I think as Africa, we need to really be honest with ourselves. And I want to throw this to experts working in this particular area, that, honestly, where are we with the AI? I mean, at what level are we as Africa with the AI technology as an emerging kind of technology? Are we at the level where we can claim that we can develop these technologies and get them adopted? Are we at the level where we are still just learning about them? I'm trying to understand really what do they entail? Or are we at the level where we don't even know whether we needed them? So we need to really reflect back as a community of practice in this particular area and be honest with ourselves and say, this is where we are as Africa, and therefore we need to finish this. We need to do the context kind of analysis. We need to understand the need analysis. We need to do and the understanding of the place of some of the systems which are working. What is the infrastructural situations or requirements or gaps for these particular technologies in a way that then would enable us really to plunge into the next step of developing and testing and scaling up some of these technologies. It's only through that we will make sense out of this particular emerging technology, especially the artificial intelligence. Otherwise, without that clear understanding, the potential for creating even more damages to our systems, our social systems, could also be a reality. So let's think around some of these issues. Otherwise, I take this opportunity to thank our able panelists, very insightful perspectives. You are doing a brilliant job. You are doing the practical things we really need to see, and they're the things that are going to begin answering some of the questions that I'm raising. Thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists, to the participants, and everybody who has been part of this session. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stella. That was a wonderful
Thank you very
session.
much.
It was driven so fluently, and I know we are supposed to be going to for health break, but my request for you yourselves to consider is that we are behind by about 15 minutes. Mark Gaffley, who is coming on next, was supposed to have been on 15 minutes back. I don't know. I wonder whether we can cut down the health break to maybe a couple of minutes, because we'll be here for the next 40 minutes only. So